No, no, it's all right. It plays up for me time to time. So, how's things?
Good. Good. Yeah, good. Busy. Very busy.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, yesterday, oh God, I was doing this battle report with the Games Night crew. I don't know if you've seen any of the stuff on YouTube. It's great. They're part of Yogscast, or they are Yogscast. They now have got like tabletop war games. They're like, oh, come down and play a game. It's really cool. And I was like, yeah, that sounds fun. And they like storytelling and stuff like that. I've done like Churchill being rescued by Dad's army from Nazis. They've done The Mandalorian trying to rescue like Grogu and stuff like that. And then we just decided to do a sharp theme game, and it was a long day because it's down in Bristol.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I'm free tonight, so all good.
Yeah.
Finally, the stars have
Yeah,
aligned.
the long days like I've just done Clash of Kings tournament at Nottingham for Kings of War.
Amazing. Yeah.
It was my first tournament as well, so it was an experience, and I'll say, well, I think I'm hooked on tournaments now.
Isn't it always the way? There's always something new. Yeah, I mean, I've got the bug bitten for Napoleonics again because I did some stuff for this upcoming game, and I'm like, oh, they've got such pretty uniforms. I love painting Napoleonics, so I've been doing that. And as a treat, I don't know why, because you see my Lego collection. My friend Dave, I won't say his surname because in case he might get hunted down, has found me some Lego Napoleonics. So I've just been literally building them, and I tell you what, they're quite accurate, which is insane for Lego. I love it. Yeah, but that's that. Yeah, I'm ready for chatting and talking and whatever weird questions or even on the spot questions you got for me. I'm happy.
Yeah, well, we'll just go. I've got a few gone out, written down, so I don't lose my train of thought, and because I know what you like with your chats and digressing. So yeah, so first of all, welcome to my interrogation room.
Nice. I'd like to be interrogated. Looking forward to it.
I know. So I know there's going to be a lot of people watching that know who you are, but for those who don't, just introduce yourself and a little bit of what you do.
So my name's Chris Peach, or Peachy, as I'm most commonly known, because it's easy to remember my name that way. There's only one name, so it's easier. Formerly of Games Workshop, been there 20 years, and was on Warmer TV doing paint guides. Before that, working in studios and doing stuff, and then in retail. And then I made the crazy, insane jump to do YouTube stuff I won't say on my own because I do it with my bud Pat, my bud Pat, and there's Jeff as well who joins on the chats and stuff. And we're on the painting phase, and it's kind of, I guess, mutated a little bit because it was just to do painting videos, but then the chats seemed quite popular, so we're keeping the chats going. So they're like a weekly thing, and most of the time, initially it was just us chatting amongst ourselves about the hobby and stuff, and then we randomly got a few guests on, and then it's become like quite popular as well. So we have a mix up. Sometimes it's lots of guests, sometimes it's like a few chats, depending who we can get. So we do a chat show and interview people in that. Our mantra is to do it in person, and the only reason for that is it just, I don't know. I mean, I love doing these podcast things because it's one-to-one. But when you've got like three of you, it gets a bit manic in sort of like remote chats, and then there's four, and then there might be five people. It gets even more manic. So having physical people in the room, just, I don't know, you can judge the conversation a bit better that way. And then there's of course the painting guides, and the painting guides I do tend to be sort of bare bones, grassroots kind of like stuff, and I throw in like some extra, get stuff on the tabletop quite quickly if you've got like a couple of nights spare. Or you're at college, school, uni, whatever, you're a dad or a mum and you've not got much time. That's the paint guys that kind of aimed at that level, and then you can always add extra details. I wouldn't class myself as an exhibition painter though. I am not to that level. I've done it in the past, but I enjoy painting lots of things fast. That seems to be what my love is. Cut corners. I'm a corner cutting kind of guy. So that's what I do. I do paint guides and chat shows. They're fun.
Yeah. I will say the painting phase is a bit of the inspirational push I had to do what I'm doing at the minute with these little chats with people like yourself.
Cool.
I say I was on an RM, but then Mini Wargame Dave at the Expo pushed me over the edge and was like, "If you got an idea, run with it till you can't run no more."
Yeah.
So
we briefly
just from saying that, I went with it, and
because we caught up at Expo as well, didn't we? Because you're at
Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah,
Mantic stand.
yeah, on the man. Yeah.
Yeah, I've just been so bad at like because the other week I come back from holiday and I drop you a message going, did I miss our date? And you were like, no,
Yeah.
because that would have slayed you on the internet. I was like, oh, okay, cool, that's not happened yet
Yeah,
then.
yeah, yeah. I think we've been trying to do this since like a week or two after the expo, haven't we?
Yeah, absolutely. It was like, oh,
Yeah.
like I was ill, or the kid was ill, or like other stuff was happening, and like just well, not forgot, but just other like live streaming getting in the way, because that's the thing we started doing now, because like Wednesdays, Thursdays, that gets manic. But yeah, it's sometimes and free time with the family. I rarely get to see my family during the week, so weekends are great. My wife's like, oh, that's where you are. You're normally like hidden in this like room. I've turned all the lights off because otherwise I get this like sanguineous glow
Right.
at the back of my head.
Right.
Yeah, just reflect off my bald
Yeah.
head. But yeah, it's good.
So we'll try this off. What was your first experience with tabletop war games? I know your dad had quite a bit to play with it, didn't he?
Oh yeah. I would say the first experience with tabletop, because I was always into like toy soldiers as a kid anyway, and I don't think it helped my dad being in the army and seeing in West Germany 1983-4, when I was like a bit more cognitive of the world around me, seeing like tanks lined outside, armored personnel carriers, soldiers marching back and forth, my dad being one of those tank drivers, that kind of helped. But the first sort of experience of you play games and do stuff was, there was one night I wasn't allowed in the living room because we were in like a military barracks, army flat kind of thing, and mum was like, well, don't go in there, your dad is busy with people. And I was like, obviously being a kid, I didn't really care, so I opened the door and there was all these buildings on the floor, and there was like loads of soldiers, very similar to the soldiers I like to play with, tanks, roads, bridges, and then there's like him and some mates. And I guess to my dad, and I can appreciate it now, I was like Godzilla going through a city, because I'm just like running, because it was all floor hammer at that time. So it's just like, no, it's like, Irene, get Chris out of the room. So I'm like, wow, look at this, I'm gonna play. And then that kind of like was like, oh, you can play games, and that's cool. And I always wanted to play games with my dad. And as I got older, we started like doing some stuff like that. And then my brother was really into it. My older brother Mark, he was very much a D&D kind of guy, and he was really big into Dragonlance and Lord of the Rings and any kind of like David Gemmell, David Eddings sort of novels and stuff. So he ran like he GM'd for a lot of like D&D stuff at that time. Yeah, that was like what, 87, 88 he was doing that. And then I was like, oh, see, there's fan, and that's how we got introduced to workshop stuff. So, and then my dad was like, I quite like, muskets and stuff, but this looks fun. And then as a family, we all picked an army. I went with dwarfs initially. My dad was Empire. My brother was, no, it wasn't Empire. He was Bretonians. My brother was Empire. And my older brother was away a lot. I think he just used whatever was going spare, but I think he had Dogs of War at some point. But yeah, very young age, stamping on my dad's Airfix figures.
Yeah.
That's how I remember that.
Yeah. So just digress a bit. Someone in the chat, Tony can't paint, says, hello Peachy. What's your least favourite colour to paint and why?
Oh yeah, that is. So I've always I've not enjoyed painting green skin on orcs. And not until like the early sort of like classic green skin of orcs, I always like found it quite hard to like get like the shades and the highlights and stuff. And it wasn't until like we started doing stuff for like Age of Sigmar, when we went for more olivey kind of tones and stuff, that I started to enjoy painting orcs a bit more. But I would say the one I struggle with the most, I think, getting depth even now, and I still do paint guides on it, and I've done a few recently on the painting face, is human skin. It doesn't matter what tone of human skin, I think it's just trying to make it look real, or at least passable as a human, because the flesh, like Caucasian flesh folks, look a bit sort of like cartoony, and if I try to do any other tones, it either looks like I've just made it looks like brown leather, or it looks like, oh, that looks like stone, or oh, I've tried to go for like a sort of Mediterranean olive vibe. No, it doesn't. It looks like a handbag. So I sometimes like really struggle trying to get those tones and those sort of shades right, and the relevant kind of highlight. I think that's and I've tried to push past that and do a lot of like self-reflecting and I guess practice and stuff. But yeah, that is I'd say still my biggest bugbear is just trying to get skin right, and I'm never happy with what I do when it comes to skin, which is why I like putting helmets on stuff, because
Yeah,
it's easier.
I've got to admit, I think flesh tone's one that I struggle most with as well.
Yeah,
Um,
because I guess when you read it on a model, it's like, because like you can like paint the cloth red, you can paint like the trousers blue, you can like do a bit of silver on a spear tip or something like that, and it's like, it's a toy soldier, and then you like paint the face, you're like, it's not quite, it doesn't really look like a toy soldier, it looks a bit naff, and I'm like, oh, I need to get better at this. So because we're humans, we look at it, that doesn't look human, that looks weird. So yeah. Rubbish. I saw what's my least favourite tea a second ago. I would say Earl Grey. It gives me migraines. My mum, bless her, was like, oh, because I think it's got bergamot in it or something like that. I still get them, not as much now, but I used to get migraines a lot when I was a teenager, and she thought this was the cure, was to like give me Earl Grey. It made it worse. So I'm there down in this tea thing, is going to make it better, and I just like vomited. I'd like nausea for days, and it panned out that after a while, because certain people get triggered by different tastes and things, mine's like light, tends to trigger my migraines, but also apparently the taste of Earl Grey as well, or at least whatever's in it. So just, yeah, double down on the death. The migraine death. Yeah, don't like that.
Yeah. So another question: what are your top war games that you're playing at maybe back into your historicals a bit at the minute? I know you're liking your Shatterpoint and Warcry. Are they your top ones, or you got some that you don't really talk about much?
I've got a couple actually. Yeah. So I mean, Warcry, you could literally skin it as anything you wanted to. So because of like all the like fighter card and ability generators that are out there, and there's like Barry from Optimal Game State shared his, and I use that a lot now for making my own cards. You could literally just take photos of like Star Wars Legion figures or Napoleonics and just use that rule system for any sort of era, because it's quite a fun skirmish game. But sometimes that takes a lot of effort, and I can't be asked because I'm lazy. But so Warcry is always going to be up there. Middle Earth, although I don't play it much at the moment, I've got loads of Middle Earth armies. I've got like a couple of the old Warhammer historical game sets as well that use the system. It is one of, in my opinion, I'm not saying this is like factual, but certainly in my opinion, from all the games I've ever played, it's one of the most robust, well thought out, well balanced gaming systems I've ever played. And you can make it as complex or as easy as you like, because you can go down the minutiae of like, well, I'm just going to roll to hit when shoot, and I can't shoot into the combat because that's the rules for like goodies, but I'll do that across the whole thing. But then if I want to like add to it, I'm like, you know what, let's do the in-depth shooting, and I'm going to shoot that guy miles away, and I've got to see if I get past the wall, and see if I get past that fight, and see if I get past that tree. And then that's like, yeah, I've used this rule system for Napoleonics, and Sharp's managed to take that guy off the horse as he's galloping away. But as rule systems go, very robust. Necromunda's great. Shatterpoint, yeah, it's all right. It's just different. I'm just not used to like not taking many models off the table. I don't know if anyone else has played it, but Shatterpoint, it's rare things die. And if they do, it's like 2-3 models a game will die. So I'm still like not used to like things not dying on the table. So I'm like, this is weird. Why are they not dead yet? But a good one that I guess I've played a lot, I don't really talk about much actually. I've mentioned it a few times. There's a company called Crooked Dice, and they do 7TV, and they've done a range of different versions of 7TV. They've done like Seventh Voyage, which is sort of mythical Jason the Argonauts, Clash of the Titans kind of era stuff. And then they've done an Apocalypse version, and they're doing something now which is got like Stingray vibes. I think it's called Manta Ray or something like that. But that rule system is really good fun. On face value, it sounds really odd, because it's like when you build your force, it's still a war game, but when you build your force, you're treating it as if it's a TV show. So you're hiring a main actor, you're hiring supporting actors, and then you're hiring extras. So your main actor is like your big like hero. Your supporting actors are like the guys that may die or may not, and then the extras are just like your chaff, like your rank and file and stuff. And then you literally have all these archetypes which are not, so they're kind of model agnostic. So there's like the super spy, and then there's like the evil genius, and then there's like the trusted sidekick, and there's like the well-trained martial artist. So you're like, you know what, I'm going to do GI Joe, because I like GI Joe, and I'm going to look at all these different archetypes and make all the fun characters. So the main character is going to be like Duke, and then I'm going to do, oh, who could be like the martial artist? Oh, that's going to be Snake Eyes. It's got to be Snake Eyes. And then you do like green shirts, or some of the other characters as like some of the extras and stuff like that. So it enables you to almost make your own favorite TV show and then play games. So I played Duncan with it loads, and he did Captain Scarlet because he loved Captain Scarlet. So he literally made the Captain Scarlet cast, and they have the models for them. And I'm a big fan of the 80s TV show called V. They did a revamp in the 90s, early 2000s, actually, 2000s. But I just like the old classic sort of trying to compete with Star Wars, but space Nazis or communists, because they're all like really smart red outfits, lizard people. I just wanted to make them. So, and now they actually make the models of V. At the time, I just used whatever I could in kit bashing. But yeah, it's a great game system. It's got really interesting mechanics. So instead of like having like, we have 6 turns a game, you have a deck, and it's like you pick so many Act 1 cards, you pick so many Act 2, and you pick so many Act 3 cards, and that's your deck. And each player takes one when it's their turn. So you take an act, and it tells you some stuff, and you can do that, and it might affect you, and it might affect your opponent. And that's me done. Then I do all my movements, and he does all his stuff. Then he takes a card for his turn. And when you slowly work through the different acts, because they kind of act as a turn counter as well, it gets more and more aggressive and more intense. So like Act 1's quite calm, it's like things are fine, and Act 2 starts to heat up, and the weird stuff happens, and Act 3 it's just like, it's insane, it's absolutely mental. Like the props and the terrain around you starts to explode. It's like a Michael Bay movie. It's good fun, but you have to go in it with like as if it's a TV show kind of war game. Mad, but fun. But yeah, I love it. It's good.
So if you was a question from another one of the local games clubs around here, Three Spies. Have you tried Moonstone?
I've heard a lot about Moonstone. I do believe we've got a copy of it in the office, so I shall give it a few people when we've done like chats and stuff, and I mentioned like, is Warcry the best game out there? And obviously I kind of, for me it is. I don't say it is, it's like, for me it is. A few people are like, oh, have you tried Reddick? Have you tried Moonstone? Have you tried this? Have you tried that? I'm like, no, that's cool. This is great. Tell me more cool games. So I've not tried it yet. It's going to have to hit the pile of other games that I've got to work through.
It's one on my list for trying. I've got some goblins that I'm started painting up.
Nice figures.
Yeah, I managed to get. He gave me some at the expo to paint up and what's it, and just looking from what I've seen on YouTube and the model, I'm hooked on the models because the sculpts of the models are phenomenal. But yeah, so I got hooked through I've not actually played a game yet.
Yeah.
It looks pretty simple to play, and it's like an alternating turn base. After these crystals that only grow when the moon's out,
Cool.
And the positioning of the crystals that you're going after are determined by dropping set amount of D4 dice in the middle of the table, and then wherever them dice land is where the crystals are, and the numbers that are facing up dictates how deep the crystals are. You've got to dig down to get.
That's clever. Yeah, because I guess D4s are quite sturdy when they're dropped. It's just like a prism, right? Or not a prism. Is it a prism? Yeah, no, pyramid.
Sure.
Yeah, it's just like poof, that's it, it's down. It took me ages trying to explain to my son how a D4 works, because he loves dice. He's a proper dice goblin, but he's like, how do these work, Dad? I'm like, yeah, this will take a little bit of time. It's not that much, but it takes a bit of time. Yeah, I'll give that a go. Yeah, it sounds great.
So one I'm hooked on at the minute is Kings of War.
Yeah, I mean, that's Mantic, isn't it? Yeah, I've always heard so many good things about it. Lots of great plastics out there as well. So not touched it yet, but you know, I am now free of the reins of Games Workshop, so I can do it. I'm slowly working my way through all these different systems and games. If
the three of you are ever interested, I'm, as you're aware, I'm an influencer and Pathfinder for him. So I'm open to doing demos, and they're coming out. They're up for pre-order at the minute. They're just releasing their range of what they call Twilight Kin, which are like dark elves.
Ooh, nice. I'm a fan of dark elves. Pointy knife ears, baddie knife ears in
Yeah,
bondage. I'm all about.
yeah, all coming from the void, and they're in control of an army that came out a few months ago called Night Stalkers, which are all been warped and twisted coming through the void. They come through this never portal, and they get twisted and all that. But the main characters with the Twilight King, the ones that aren't really affected by the void, are all the females, because they've got their willpower's stronger and they're less easier to corrupt than the males.
Right.
All the males are all twisted. You've got some of these elves have gone through the void, and normally your elves are nice and small. Now some of these elves have come out and they're like bigger than orcs,
oh wow,
bigger than movers.
Yeah,
but they're in like full knight armor and stuff. And you got some that are riding around on little skips, which are floating on the magic from the void.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's loads of cool stuff that's happening at the minute with them.
Yeah, I've recently got is it the treasure crate stuff from Mantic, like all the cool like interior detail and stuff. Yeah, so I've been purchasing some bits for that because I love decorating the inside of like my gaming boards and stuff like with like bookcases and tables, and I was making them for a time out of like plastic card, and that, as fun as that is, sometimes after a while you're like, I wish there was a company that just made some tables and some bookcases and like, you know, treasure piles. So I'd have to sit there slicing up loads of plastic cards to look like coins. Oh, they do. Great. Yeah. I'll buy them. So yeah, I've got
another big draw to the Kings of War for me is the way that they work out the unit. So, you know, most game platforms, it's like, right, you've got 20 models in this unit and you have to take that amount of models. What Mantic are trying to push you to do, they want you to do what they call multi-basing. Pushing towards for you to do like mini dioramas, because they're on a set base size. So if your regiment's meant to have 20 models in, they want you to have at least 10 to represent that unit of 20. But then to really bump it up to make these exciting, like they're basically little dioramas. On certain base sizes, and the cool thing about the game is it works off a nerve and morale system, so you can take all this damage but you're not actually taking your models off the table until the unit is routed.
I mean, I get that with black powder. I always found it really interesting with black powder. When your units are taking damage, you're encouraged to put a casualty marker on it. So I model lots of dead British redcoats and like some Austrian dead and stuff like that. So I'm actually adding more painted figures to the table, which I find really absurd. I'm like, so I'm not taking things off, I'm adding more painted stuff, and I love that idea. So you add things or not take your things off, because you spend ages painting them, right? You want to show them off, you want to see them and stuff. And I do like, to a certain degree, I do like taking things off, because you start to see like the rank and file move away. But sometimes when you put like a lot of heart and soul into a thing, it's nice to see it on the table longer. So that's pretty cool. I like that. It's nice.
Yeah. I'd say the offer's there. Like, if you ever you'll get the time and whatnot, we can.
When we've moved office, because that is still it's taking ages. So we said yes to an office space which is between Notts and Derby, Chilwell, and we're like, we want to move. We said, because it's a sublet from a company, we're like, we want to move. We're happy to take it. They're like, cool. And it's been like nearly 3-4 months of just like, what's going on? Do you not want money? We're happy to pay, and it's all because of like the solicitor side of things. Luckily, we've got a solicitor on the Patreon who's been helping us out. And he's just like, it shouldn't take this long. This is insane. But once we've moved, we're looking at having like a corner, which is for the chats. So at the moment in Pat's spare room, it's like we have to change the setup depending on what the type of video we're doing. Whereas when we move, we'll have a corner for chats, we'll have a corner for the paint videos, and then we'll have a space in the middle for gaming. So, having people coming down and talking about stuff and maybe even showing us how things work and stuff like that is like totally on their cards. So that would be interesting. Totally up for that. Yes. I saw earlier someone waved from Scotland. I didn't catch your name, but hi.
Yeah.
Saw you waving.
Yeah, I just had one of my stepdaughters in as well. waving at me.
Well, I see Billy's in
um,
the chat. Hello, Billy. Does sound exciting. Can't wait to move.
yeah,
Cannot
yeah,
wait.
yeah. It'll be. I bet think it'll be a lot less stressful for you not having to set up and take down and set up and take
Well,
down. And
it's not just that. Like, right next to where I sit, there's like a slanted ceiling because obviously it's like the top floor of this shared flat. So I'm constantly banging my head on this wall, and I have to like tiptoe around all these wires and Pat's really expensive cameras, and I'm like in leather, like with a rucksack and a helmet. I'm like, oh, we need to find somewhere bigger. And we have. We need to
just had one of my mates, Scholarly Paints War. He's just joined in. He lives in Cairo.
Oh wow, blooming heck. Nice. Get to see the real Two Kings. Awesome.
You mentioned Two Kings. They do Empire of Dust in Kings of War,
Cool. Yeah.
which
Makes
is
sense.
Two Kings army. So just moving on a little bit. So touching back on the painting, did you ever consider doing commission painting when you was at the store at Derby or when at Games Workshop?
I think I've always like thought about it, and then I did. So when I was in retail, I thought about it, but it was never like I wasn't known enough to even like contemplate like anyone wanting to like pay for me to paint stuff because I didn't even think that was a thing at the time. And then I moved to the studio eventually, and weirdly there was a lot of internal staff like the Perrys, Dave, Raz, and Ali, who have their own like miniatures company, Jervis. They always like, oh, can you paint some stuff for us? And for a lot, I get to say a good 3-4 years, we used to do stuff for them. I did like all sorts of random like Perry miniatures and World War One Scots and Germans and Turks and God knows what, and like some Crimean stuff. And that was great fun. And then the contract change, which we weren't allowed to do that, which I totally understand is more than reasonable. It's not like you can't do this. There was a time everyone was a bit like, oh, but because we didn't get paid a lot, and I still sometimes question if some of the staff do get paid the right amount. But it was like an extra source of income that we did lose out on. But I understood it that at the time it was communicated that they want first dibs of your time. If you're willing to give up your spare time to paint some stuff, Workshop would like the first dibs on it. And I was like, cool. So they stopped us from doing these things, but then they never gave us the option to paint stuff for them. So I was like, oh. And then eventually that happened, and then that was fine. But I got to the point eventually when we were doing commission or freelance stuff. Hey, I've just seen Jack just joined, War Daddy. When we were doing like stuff for Workshop, it was like, I found my own personal hobby and my own free time more valuable than painting up like an Age of Sigma collection for pence. It felt like it was like the amount of effort and time I'm putting into this and what I'm getting out of it, like from a monetary point of view, wasn't worth it. And that sounds really weird. I'd rather have my free time and do my own hobby because I do this all day, every day. And I was like, I don't think I want to be a commission painter. And then weirdly, I did because he's just popped up. I did a little video because Jack was like, I'd sponsor a video about commission. If I send you some stuff, it'd be really good to do a little commission. And it was more because what Jack does is he is a commission painter and he has his business, but he sends stuff out to people that are like in between work or like just getting on the ladder and stuff. And he's very open about it. It's like, it's not high rates, but it's just stuff to keep you going. And I was like, that'll be quite good fun, like just painting some stuff up. So I did a video based on that. And I know the rates in the grand scheme of the world of commission painting isn't high, but in my mentality, and I think some people missed the point with the video as well when they were like responding with their comments, was I was using that costing and how I'd use that with my time, because at Workshop it was like £10 an hour. And so I was like, well, it's £3 a model. So if it's £3 a model, I'm probably looking at like 3 an hour kind of thing. So I was like using my Peach maths to see how I could do these things quite quickly in that kind of time, and how to go about it. Yes, granted, I didn't include like materials like paint and brushes because it was a one-off, but it was really interesting. And I've recently done a commission for someone. It was more out of the blue, and they were just like, do you do commissions? I'm like, oh, not really. I'm like, oh, my partner's really a big fan of like Iron Warriors, watches the show. I was just like looking to see if I can get some paint. I was like, it's a birthday, I don't give a shit. Sure, what do you want? So they were like, oh, okay. So I just painted up an Iron Warrior, sent it off to them. As always, I probably undercharged because I'm like that. I am not at all in it for the cash. I actually really enjoyed painting the Iron Warrior, and I was like, I quite like Iron Warriors now. I might do some more of these. But yeah, it's been something I've thought about and like romanticize, like, oh, painting commissions. I have sold some stuff on like eBay, some old Civil War stuff that I did, but it didn't sell very well. And I was like, oh, there's a lot of time and effort went in that, and it didn't do very well. Oh, I'm not sure I want to do it. So I'll do it every now and again, if it's worth it, or if I just want to do something different. But I don't think I'd want to make a career out of it. And hats off to those that do. So Billy, Little People Painting in the chat right now, and Jack, hats off to you guys, because it's insanely hard work, and how you guys do it, yeah, hats off to you. It's tough.
Yeah, I understand what you say. So I do not a great deal, but I find it. I say it's not the most profitable thing to be doing, but I think I make the most profit by doing a bit and then selling it on eBay,
Yeah.
rather than someone going, "Can you paint?" So I'm doing some gene stealers for someone at the minute, and although it's a reasonable amount, when you look back and you realise the materials and the time and the building and the extra little bits of, oh, can you just change this little bit, and you're having to go back and do something, it isn't as cost effective. But then on the flip side, you're getting that variation of painting different models.
Yeah.
Up until now, I've not done any gene stealers, and I'm actually quite enjoy, and it's a nice change painting gene stealers, because the painting super fast, and without sounding harsh or anything, with minimal effort, they look good because of how the sculpted.
If you've got enough texture on it,
yeah.
I mean, that's how I often approach my painting. So recently, I was doing these French for this game for the Games Night crew, and I painted British till I'm like blue in the face. I've done so many British over the years, and I don't know, I found them quite easy because I spray them like an off white grey kind of tone and wash them down, and then I just like pick out the red coat near the end and do all the black details and stuff. And I found them quite quick. But the French, I don't know what, I just found them really hard, because there's like I did the same process. The only difference is they've got blue jackets, right? That's easy. You're just changing the red for blue. No, it's not that easy, because they have all these weird colours on their pom-poms and their epaulets, and they've got all this extra lining in there, and if you don't do it right, it looks utter toss. So I was like, oh, I'm not enjoying these now. But then I kind of got past that and found a way that worked for me, which was like treat them like, I was painting Austrians because they all wear white clothes, and at the end I just do a couple of like washes of thin down contrast, and that kind of helped with getting the blue coats looking like minimal effort, maximum effect, because it was like white spray, washes, dry brushing, pick out all the little details, and then a couple of thin coats of contrast on what was the jackets. And I was like, oh, I don't need to highlight them because the contrast has done that. Oh, cool. I wish I'd led with that now. So yeah, I'm totally on board with the, if I can do it quickly, minimal, looks great from a distance, all about that.
Yeah, I know. That was, I say, going to how you do it and try and do it quick. I managed, it was a breakthrough for me with one of the greys from War on Terror.
Oh yeah, they're great. Love their greys.
Yeah,
so good.
And literally, I thought, right, I want to get it painted. I'm not going to go. So I'm one of these ones that when I start, I switch into OCD and everything has to. And I was like, right, I'm getting this one done as quick as I can. These are the colours I'm going to use, and just put the colours out. And I think from building, priming to finish painting and basing, I think it was 45 minutes.
Oh, wow, yeah, that's impressive.
So
nice.
like, I put the base colours down. I don't normally do. It's something I can't remember if you or Duncan I saw do, where you blocked in all the base colours and then went over with a wash.
Yeah.
And I did that, and it was like, I thought about it in the past, and I thought, oh, it seems too much effort. And then I tried it on that, and it was game changing.
Yeah, there was because I know we got a few comments on it when I was doing the Into Dark Breaches. I was like blocking out the colours because I'd already done a test model, so I knew what I was doing with this as well. That because Pat's camera's really amazing and shows all the flaws and all the dust in the world. It's really annoying, and sometimes a bit like after the video's been edited, I see like a hair on the model when he does the 360. I'm like, fuck's sake, Pat, you can at least take the hair off. But it happens. So when we move, I'm going to be a little bit more like, we need a review process. I want to make sure that 360 is bob on, and he'll be like, yeah, we'll do this. But yeah, so I'd done this into dark, and I'm doing these breaches, and I did them in like sort of like a color scheme I did for some voidsmen at arms, which is like red, so they look a bit like Praetorians. But I didn't go mad going like with the red coats and like the black belts and the blue all the way into the cracks, because I knew once I drenched them all in non-oil, that goes into the cracks and it kind of lines it. So like when it's all base coat, there was comments like, he's not even gone to the edge, you know, there's like a bit of grey between the belt and the red, and it just looks really untidy and really badly done. And I'm like, if you just waited like 2 more minutes,
yeah,
after all the rest of the base coat's been applied and you see the wash going on, it does all that, it shades it, and then it just like makes a nice solid black bit of depth and shade. And then there's people going, oh my god, I can't believe these people that just like swap models in no oil. I'm like, oh god, you shouldn't be watching my videos then. You might want to turn off. But yeah, it's just the way I do it, because it's quick, it's efficient, blocking a load of colours, don't have to be all the way to the edge because the shade goes in the cracks. And yeah, it's just like me being lazy, getting old, and not having much time, and just finding shortcuts in life.
yeah. I say those people that put the comments on about drying and stuff, they're obviously not aware of army painters dipping pots.
No, no, they're not. No, they are not. Oh,
Yeah.
they'd have a heart attack if they saw them.
You're literally your B&Q paint pots full of either Agrax Earthshade or Nulling Oil, and lollipop dip with blue tack and just dip your model in and then shake it off.
We used to do that with the when we used to do dipping, when that was a sort of a fad for a time. It's getting your yacht varnish or whatever and just dipping your model in and then just shaking them off into a bag, and then when it was all dry, they'll still shine. You get your tester's dual coat on them. You're like, yeah, wicked, done. But yeah, I don't really care what people think. I just do what I feel's right. But it's good. It's fun.
At the end of the day, the models that you're playing with and painting, they're for yourself more than anybody else, aren't they? So it don't really matter what if other people don't agree with how you're painting it, as long as you're happy with how they look and you enjoy playing with them. That's all that matters.
I think I've been in a sort of, I suppose, privileged position where I've done stuff for books, stuff for box packaging, that at least I've got an accolade of like stuff that I've done in the past that says I can paint to this level, but I choose not to paint to this level because I want to help people paint faster and get more stuff on the tabletop that's painted. And you know, I'm also getting that age where I'm having to like cut corners more and, you know, do stuff like that. So I do find it interesting that there is a weird snobbery about like everything has to be edge highlighted with a brush with the finest lines ever. Everything has to be doing like, you know, really neat sort of blends and stuff. I'm just like, you don't have to do that. And if you're new to the hobby, you certainly don't have the skill set yet to be able to do that. Some people can, you know. I've seen those many posts on the Instagram, and I'm sure you've seen them as well, which is like, this was me 1 year ago, this is me now. Like, how is that a year's progress? Where did you go into a TARDIS for 500 years and learn a skill and then come back out? That can't be a year. That can't be a year. So
yeah, no, you see some of them, and it's like, oh, to progress like that, you sat in the room for 7 days a week painting for 10 years straight every day, and that's done.
Yeah, I'm just jealous of those people. That's what I am. Absolutely a well gel.
Yeah, I've got to admit, up until recently, I used to be one of them ones that it was like, I never got my head around batch painting. I'd have to paint one model at a time, and I'd want it on that cusp of being tabletop plus up to almost a display. I was like, right, my army's got to be like that, because when you're growing up and you're looking at the models, it's what you see on the box, and you think that's what it needs to be. You don't. There's nobody in the shops, or I mean, it's not as bad now, but there's nobody around saying, no, you don't need to do that. Just paint it to what you're happy with or what your ability is. You don't have to represent what's on the box every time and whatnot. And say up until recently, that was what my mentality
Yeah,
was. And
yeah,
now, plus with the pressure of getting an army painted for Clash of Kings, I've just done, that was the turning point for me. It was like, actually, every model don't have to be a display model or a super crisp, detailed model. As long as from your opponent's side of the table, you can see what it's meant to be,
yeah,
then you've done
yeah.
your job.
No, completely agree. I think the biggest turnaround for me with that, because I used to do all sorts of stuff in the studios, and it was seeing Dave Andrews, because he used to do all sorts of other range stuff as well. But I think it was his Crimean stuff he was just doing during his lunch times, and I was just looking at them. They looked really pretty, and I was like, "Oh, what have you done here? Why have you got that red so nice?" And it was like, "Oh no, it's just base coats," because he literally base coat everything, and then he'll just put effort into the face, and then effort into the base, obviously, because they were multi-base stuff. But everything else was just flat color with a wash on it. But because you've got like a unit of 40 of them, and they're all together, and they're on this really nice base, and they've got the two flags, like the king's colors and the regimental colors. That whole spectacle of them together like that is what you're looking at. You're not looking at the individual. You're looking at like it's the paint job is intended for 50, not one. And then you see it, and that's one of the things I've always tried to like iterate about like army painting. It's like you're not painting that figure to go in an exhibition on its own. You're painting that figure to go in a collection of like 400 troops. And when there's 400 troops on the tabletop, that's how you should judge it. And that's how I've always judged when I've done like the armies on parade stuff. I know there's some people that go really over the top, and it's, you know, they're amazing displays and amazing paint jobs, but I look at the spectacle as opposed to the individual. And that's always been like my mantra with any kind of like army painters. Like you're looking at the collection, not the singularity of that. I mean, obviously you can do when you've got a competition and there's like three people, you've got to pick between the three. You're like, oh, now we've got to go into the nitty gritty of like, you know, what's going on here and stuff. But yeah, it's great. Love painting toys. Love it.
Yes. It's the mental break we all need from the day-to-day working life. And
well, my day-to-day is painting toy soldiers, so I don't need to worry about that anymore, which is great.
Yeah. So we touched on it a bit. So your career at Games Workshop, how and when did that start?
So I was at uni in the shiny depths of 2000. It was probably 2001, and I got wind of Lord of the Rings was coming into the cinemas. Very excited by that. Big fan of Lord of the Rings. Read the books, and I popped into the store. I knew, weirdly, the guy that was full-time in the store because his partner was a mate of my wife, not wife at the time, but my girlfriend at the time. She was on the same course because we're both at Derby Uni. She was doing like basically really useful practical course of like building stuff with tools and power drills. So she's like the traditional 1950s male who knows everything about DIY, and I'm clearly like the opposite of that. I'm a bit arty-farty, but she did a course about building, making stuff like ironmongering and like steel forging and like building wooden structures. And her friend that was on it was the girlfriend of this guy in the store, and that's how I got to know him. And I walked past one day and it was just like, have you ever thought about getting a job in Games Workshop? And I was like, I have, but I don't think I'm good enough. And he was like, you sure? I was like, I don't know. Am I? I don't know. And he was like, there's a recruitment day coming on soon if you're interested. I was like, cool, sure, all right. So I attended the recruitment day and just talked about myself a bit and then like what my hobby was, and then did some weird funny joke stuff because they get you to do stuff in front of like a bunch of people. And then I got called back, and then the manager was like, I'd like to give you a job. I was like, well, this came out of nowhere. So that was all because of like the massive push of Lord of the Rings being quite popular, so they needed extra bodies in the stores. And my very first day was a Saturday, and I'd not played Lord of the Rings. I'd not even known it was out at this point, or at least the staff had it. And you have like an hour before the store opens to do training. So I had a bit of a brief what was going on. I was like, right, the door's going to open in 5 minutes. I want you to teach people how to play this game. I was like, but I don't know the rules. I've not played it. I was like, just teach them how to play it. I was like, okay. I don't know how to play it. So I just had fun, and everything was a 4-up. And yeah, as the weeks got on, I got to know a bit more about the rules, but it was not the really interesting learning curve where it was not about knowing the rules, about getting people excited. It was about teaching people to get people excited about a game. It's not about teaching them the rules in the intro. It's about getting them excited about miniatures and moving around the table. I was like, okay. So it was like a really interesting learning curve. And I did that for a good few years because I was in uni still doing my course. Finished that, then I was like in between jobs because I wanted to be an illustrator. That's what I did at uni. My whole goal was to be an illustrator for workshop, and then it kind of just panned out. I just went into full-time, then went into like management, and then kind of like management was a bit tricky then because the sort of stepping stone was like, you're now a store manager, cool, what's next? I won't say I'm like an ambitious person, but it was like, there's nowhere for me to go. I've hit the roof now, because after that it's like regional managers, and they're all like the same age as me, and they're not going to die anytime soon or leave because they're all super professional and know what they're doing. So there's nowhere for me to go at this point other than sideways or back down and elsewhere. So I moved to One World as a full-timer. And then within 2-3 months I'd applied for an army painting job and got it, and that was great. And I was like, cool, I like painting, and that's kind of how I got into the studio. Was just like weirdly deciding to make that move from retail to another retail closer to head office, which was One World, and then just getting wind. Oh no, Savage Orc is in there. Oh no, it's the Sogs. She's crashed the party. Raid. So yeah, and then ever since then I've just worked my way through departments, and I think it's all been good luck, as opposed to some skill involved, but most of it's good luck. The whole doing Warmer TV was just luck. I am not a trained presenter. I have a face for radio. I like teaching people how to paint, and I was just like, "Would you like to work with Warmer TV?" I was like, "Cool, yeah, right." Whereas, Suggs does have a face for TV, and the presenting skills to go with it. I certainly don't. But I enjoyed it. It's been a great ride, and then I learned some new skills, and I was like, I like doing this. I like teaching people. I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm just being truthful. It's absolutely truthful. I knew I wanted to eventually move on, but I didn't know, because I guess that's the thing. Once you get stuck into like a job role, you're like, well, as an army painter for a long time, I was like, where do I go after that? Because who else around the world employs people to paint toy soldiers? No one. So and that was like before like Mantic was super big, and like Warlord had become like quite as popular as it had. And then by that point I was like in TV studio going, well, who wants a presenter that can paint? No one. So I can't really go and do like TV presenting because I don't have all the skill sets those guys do, because they know what they're doing. They've had years of training. But just fell into this whole kind of doing my own thing with Pat, which is mad.
Yeah. Cool. So we'll have to try and get Suggs to come into the interrogation room when she's got free time.
She'll love it. She'll love it. All you'll do is just listen. It's not a conversation when you have Suggs on.
I'll just mention goblins or orcs and go.
I know she's listening, but I'm gonna say it anyway because it makes me laugh. So because we had her on the chat last week, and she's talked about it a few times. Like her partner Rob's like, you know, our conversations work, don't you, Louise? But I remember there's 2 times we went to Salute, and no, it wouldn't have been the expo because she didn't go to that. And then we went to Griffcon together, and both times in the van she's like, I'm a bit tired today. I might not be that talkative, and like non-stop down from Notts to London or Essex with Griffcon. She doesn't stop talking. She's great. I literally can like listen to Suggs talk forever. And also most of the time we end up talking about like fantasy art, because she's a big fan of fantasy art, and Frank Frazetta and all the other good stuff that's out there that we love as kids, or I certainly loved as kids when I was looking at all the art for D&D. So yeah, she's great. You should be awesome on here. Absolutely. Less of interrogation.
Yeah, I did meet her briefly at the UK Games Expo because she was drooling over the Labyrinth game. And
yes, yeah. I can see that happening, becoming more of a thing. Yeah, I think she's painting some of that stuff.
Yeah, she's painted some of the remember what they're called now. The ones they lose their heads.
Yeah, take the heads off and put them on other ones. Yeah.
Yeah, that's another game that's pretty cool because they're like an expansion. And what they do, they basically run around the board, and when they land on your character, they steal your dice. Fire is other ones.
Nice.
They steal your dice, and then you've got to spend the game chasing them to get your dice back.
That's amazing. What a mechanic! What a great mechanic!
And you literally, like it works a bit like Blackstone Fortress. You got your activation dice.
Yeah.
You basically got a similar mechanics to that with activation dice, and then when one of them lands on the square, it steals one of them.
Little shits.
Amazing. Brilliant little stuff like that.
I love it. Yeah. Nice.
No, yeah, it is a good little. It's a quick game and it's simple to pick up, and it is a good game. Yeah.
Well, I've seen her paint the stuff, so yeah. I was really inspired when I saw. Oh, I can't remember if it was Lackey or someone else had gone to Wetton. They've got like a whole sort of labyrinth board that was made. And it was just the most amazing thing, and I'm just like, I want to play war games on this. This is so cool, and it all like interchanged and moved as well, didn't it?
It was all. I think I think the chap that first did a video on it was the chap from Mythbusters.
Oh, that's it. Yes, yeah.
And because he's all into like making film props and stuff, isn't he?
Yeah.
And he got wind of it, and
it's Savage, isn't it? I forget his name now, so it's Savage.
Yeah, and it's like a 30-foot modular to scale whole board of the labyrinth.
Yeah, so good.
It is, and it's down to the detail, even down to the little goblins running around, around the Goblin King's castle.
I just hope they got the scale right for David Bowie's crotch. That's all I hope.
Yeah.
The little cod piece.
So again, we touched on it a bit earlier. So you transition from working at Games Workshop to the painting phase. How scary or how easy was that for you to make the decision in the leap?
Scary, actually, and then eventually easy, weirdly. So I've talked about this a few times, actually. So I wasn't enjoying myself for many reasons. There was lots of stuff going on behind the scenes, and some of it was fair. Some of it was just like, this is weird. I've never experienced this in all my years of working at a workshop. And with the Warmer Plus thing going off as well, there's a lot of attention put on that, rightly so, because that was, that's quite a draw. It's going to be making money, whereas the YouTube videos are quite free. Well, they are free, but it kind of got to the point where it was like you certainly felt like you were the annoying cousin that wasn't really needed anymore, and whether that was intended or not, that's certainly the perception that a few of us had. And then as you're trying to do videos, because across a 6-month period, I'd written loads of videos and managed to film like a handful, because whether that was the editor being taken away, the camera's been taken away, the lights been taken away, or all three of them been taken away. So I would like prep a video, because I can't tell you now because no longer the scripts exist, but I'd written so many scripts, even on like the master files and stuff, and then they just never got used. You're like, oh, I've done a video, I've got a script, I've got the model built, ready to start. Oh, we're not doing it today because they need all the lights for Warmer Plus. I was like, oh, when are we going to do it? No, I don't know, never. Oh, okay, I'll start on the next one then. What's the next project? And like 6 months of that, it just got a bit, kind of gets you downtrodden. So I'd started to look at different sort of like an exit strategy, I suppose. Strategy is like a stretch of the word. I was like, doing some filming on my own with my phone and the tripod I've got here, with some like stormtroopers and some other random figures and stuff, just to see if I can like make a video with the camera I've got, to start off, and then get some paint videos. Won't do any audio. I might even just like launch them on YouTube, but have like a pseudonym and stuff like that. And I was doing all this stuff and prepping ideas, and like me and Suggs were like looking at leaving, because we were both like, oh, this is weird, but I'd already checked out by this point. And then I felt it was weird because I felt this sense of guilt because I've been there for so long, and I was like, well, if I go, what's going to happen to the YouTube videos? What's going to happen to the free content? and I'd feel like an awful human being. And I know one presenter's already left and now has like I'm not going to say he's got an official black mark against his name, but certainly there's whispers around the business that he didn't do it, he didn't leave right, or this, that, and the other. And it's like, okay, but it's not really about whether he left or not. It's why he left. You got to look at that. He obviously wasn't enjoying it anymore. So there was all these things going around my head and stuff. And I was like, what should I do? And I was talking to Pat, because I was asking advice about like photography and this, that, and the other, because he'd already left by this point. And he was like, hey, I'm making my own channel now. I was like, oh, cool, how great. And I'm at the back end, I'm so jealous. And he's like, I've got this logo. Here's my first video. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. Great work. And then I was told that we're looking at hiring 3 new presenters. Mentally, I was checked out. Physically I was still there, but I decided, I was like, if I train them up, or at least get them started on the right path, and then I will feel less guilty again, because they'll be like, because originally we were just going to hire one person, but they're all really like nice people, and at different levels as well, which I think was great for the channel. I know a couple of them get stick because they're like, you're not a great painter, but I think they all had a great spectrum of different skills that would work, but they wanted to hire all 3. And I was like, 3? That's better than 1. That's even more reason for me to not be anymore. But I guess they had an intention for me to manage them at some point, and I didn't really want to manage anymore. I'd done that twice and didn't enjoy either time, because I don't like telling people off. I really don't. I like having a team and working in a team and working as like I guess a unit, a community, and getting things done. And I guess as a manager, team leader of the Army Painters, that was the best time as being a manager. When it moved into taking responsibility of the camera room, because I had to look after that for a time, that's when it got weird and a bit too managerial, and it was too much paperwork. Once I stopped painting and doing the thing I love, that's when it got weird, I think. And that I was fearing this was going to be the same kind of thing, that it ceased to be about painting videos and more about just managing staff again. I was like, but I'd already checked in my head, like, you know what, get them trained up as best as I can, give them a good start, and then I could just feel less guilty when I leave. So I stuck it out to like Christmas time. Then they all got hired, and it was after Christmas they started. And then this is the weird bit, and it worked out really well. We had 3 new presenters, including, and then 4 including me, and 1 editor who was also the videographer. And we had to have the same output, if not more, than what we had. But if the editor videographer's filming, no one's editing because he's filming, because he's the editor as well. So we're still making the same amount of videos, but there's 4 of us, so 1 of us is filming and 3 are twiddling their thumbs. And I'm like, how am I supposed to train people? And in the end I was like, Joe, can you just show me how to use the cameras? I'll film them, and then you can edit. And then as I'm filming, I can like give him feedback as we're doing it. So that was the process we worked out together. He showed me how to set the cameras up. He showed me how to, because he had like multicam and little gubbins and stuff to make sure everything was recording. And I made a few mistakes. Poor Emma lost the entire video because I filmed over it. It was an Ashway scenery video that she put her heart and soul into and did a really good job. And I forgot to give the cards to Joe and copy over them. So that never happened as a video. Sorry, Emma, if you're watching. So that was a bit of a poo-poo on my part. But it was really handy seeing where they were not going wrong, but what they needed improvements on and stuff. Because it is hard talking to camera. Because like talking like we are now, that's normal, right? And then when I do live, that's normal. I've done live loads. But when that red light goes on, and suddenly you have to, certainly for workshop, where painting phase, I can just be more myself. You had to be professional. You had to make sure the naming convention was right. When you talk about the law, it had to be accurate. So there's all this extra added pressure. So I just like built up a small like training program of like doing little steps, then combining a couple of them, doing some more bits and combining those. And that worked really well. And I was enjoying getting them up to a certain point, but I didn't want to manage them. I just wanted to get them as a good start and then go off. And during this whole process that was happening, Pat approached me and was like, do you want to come and work for me? I was like, yeah. Yes, please. So that was how that came about. And yes, it was worrying because, you know, I have a child, I've got a wife who has a job as well. And, you know, suddenly leaving like a well-paid job Although a few people have said should have been better paid. Like, money's money, as long as I can put food on the table. And I kind of with Pat, we worked out we could do that. It's just the jump, and it was scary. And I hoped that when I left and I did one video, if one person subbed to the YouTube, that'd be great. And yeah, I was shocked and overwhelmed by like the peak of people subbing, and I was also really enjoying it, and still am obviously, of being myself. And it was really interesting that there was, when I joined Warmer TV, there was this weird sort of movement of people that are very sycophantic of Duncan. He's nice, and you know, it's fine to like Duncan, but to the point that they hated me because I was taking the limelight away from him. But I wasn't, because we're mates, and he can only do so much, and he needs something called a holiday and days off, and he can't do every video in the world. So as mates, it worked well because we worked together. But yeah, there's this weird sort of like, oh, I don't like Peachy because he's not Duncan. And I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm Peachy. I am not Duncan. There's only one Duncan in the world, and there only ever will be. Yeah. And it was this weird sort of like, as if I was stealing his limelight. And strangely, when I moved to the painting phase, there was a few comments in some of the videos going, I never really liked you when you're at Warmer TV, but a bit more of your personalities come out now, and I actually prefer you now than I did before. And I'm like, yeah, because that's what happens when you work for a company. You have to follow a bunch of rules and structures and this, that, and the other. So I can't always be myself, which is a shame, because if I was, I'd be fired.
But I say, when I got back in, say, because I've been in and out the hobby for like the last 20 years, I came back in about 8 years ago, and it yourself and Duncan's videos that brought me back up to speed with all the newer paints. And because when I first started doing it, most of the models were still red. And
yeah. Billy's just, oh, sorry, yeah.
And I was watching the painting phase before you joined,
cool.
as well. So it's nice seeing the transition of you coming across. And it was unexpected, but it was, when you joined, it was, I don't know, it's difficult to explain, but it was, when they announced that you were joining, it was at that point I knew it's gonna explode.
Yeah, I didn't. I'm glad you had faith, because I didn't. Yeah, I mean, it was a whole fun journey, and it's interesting doing that kind of stuff, and like the reception you get, and how people react to it, and whatever. And Billy just mentioned that the video that Pat did is my joining video, which was sort of like a homage to Commando, tooling up at the start, and then like clipping like paint pots and like a tea mug to my belt, and then his drone footage of me riding my bike. I mean, you know, my biggest bugbear of that, and it still bothers me to this day, and I still get it now, is my motorbike. This is for everyone watching. I know, you know, it's not everyone in the world, but maybe if you do come past me, my headlight isn't broken. A Kawasaki Versys has one headlight and one main beam. They're two separate lights. I don't know why they do it. Most motorcycles don't. But one's not working because it's the main beam. So when I put main beam on, that goes on. And like, so many people in the comments are like, do you know one of your headlights is broken? I was like, it's not broken. I get flashed so much at winter because like people like, because it's night and the lights on, people are like, oh, this guy's headlight's not working. He's only got one working, flashing. I'm like, I wish they thought about this when they made this bike. It's stupid. So I get flashed so much. So I'm often like, what's wrong with my bike? Oh no, it's the headlights, isn't it? It's the headlights, of course it is. But yeah, that's my biggest bugbear. With so many comments about like my headlight not working. So I've even got stopped by the police. I had to explain to him, I was like, it's the make. If you see another Kawasaki Versys, you'll get the same problem. And I said, it's so frustrating. I've asked them if they could actually make it. Like both of them are like, it's not how it works. I was like, okay, cool, great, thanks. But yeah, I mean, they're only doing the job, to be fair. Like, headlight's not working. Cool, thanks.
So yeah, we're coming up to where we're at now. So now we touched on the painting phase. What are the future plans? We mentioned earlier about your new studio.
Yeah.
So other than the new studio, what future plans?
Oh, so I mean, I meant to mention this earlier actually with like working with Pat and stuff. Pat's early videos of him watching other YouTubers do stuff, and then because he did that with his Iron Warriors video, watched
Yeah.
lots of different Iron Warriors paint guides, and I really like that format, and I want to see more of Pat doing that because it's like it was a really unique way of doing like
Yeah.
a
I
video.
can still remember. Yeah, now you said I remember him going, "Oh, I've watched so and so's video. Now I'm going to try this
Yeah, yeah,
technique."
and I just really liked it.
The hazard stripe one, I think, worked out the best for him. The black and yellow hazard
Yes,
stripe.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, but I mean, imagine that, right? Like, because that's quite true of a lot of people out there that like watch all these different videos. So seeing someone doing the same thing, but also going, well, I've taken this bit from this one I really like, and I've taken this bit from this one that I really like, because actually everyone paints differently. Everyone's got like a different approach. But sometimes if you watch enough videos, you can take bits from each of them that work for you as an individual. So it was a really interesting concept of the video, and I want to see more of that from Pat and even me, because I don't know that much about airbrushing. So watching a bunch of airbrushing videos and like doing a similar format and kind of watch this one, I've watched this one, I've watched this one, I'm going to try this, I'm going to try that. So that's something from a format point of view. You want to do more gaming, and again, it's the way I pitched it, but we said it was part one of 4 parts, but should have said it was a pilot, because it was so hard to film, because the space isn't great. But once we move, and I know I saw Dad and Lad mention it earlier, going, yeah, finishing Necromunda campaign, we will. We want to go more into like the gaming side of it, but not to compete with like Vanguard Tactics, Tabletop Tactics, even Games Night. We just want 3 mates learning the game. And it could be me. I've learnt the rules and I'm going to show them how to play it, and we'll have a couple of games and have some fun and have like a little campaign and a story. And then it might be like, I don't know, Pat reads the rules for 40k Monopoly and we play a couple of games of that, and have a bit of a laugh and drink some beer and, you know, whatever. So want to see more of that.
There you are then. When you're all set up in that, I'll come over and the Kings of War.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's so much scope for like just learning new stuff. I want to do more board builds as well, like actual in-depth, like building an entire board and the process of doing that. And as a parent, the value of teaching younger generations into painting, because a lot of the stuff we did for workshop and even like in the stores was like aim for 12 and overs. My son's really getting into it, so I want to aim at stuff that's like 5, 6 onwards, because scouts, they've got a whole sort of like badge now, and the scouts, well, this like one of Charlie's friends, 7, and he's doing that. So I'd love to do like some fun stuff for like the younger generations as well, whether that's just playing a really fun game or finding a rule set and just going real bare bones, because I've done that with Charlie where we played Star Wars Legion. We did 4+ hammer, but he loved it and I died, but I was expected to die. That's the way it is. But yes, there's loads of like different styles of videos. I also want to do like some weird sort of challenges, like Pat's like, right, you got to start collecting. You can either only use 2 colors, like red and yellow, on this entire start collecting, or you can use any color, but you have to paint with your right hand. And I'll be like, I'm gonna go with option B, paint with my right hand and see how bad it looks, and just like do weird like, I don't know, once every blue moon a video like that. Want to do some D&D stuff as well, actually, like, you know, Wrath and Glory or whatever I forget what the Age of Sigmar one's called now, not Soul Wars, that's the box set. I should know it because I bought it and I can't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, just lots more stuff that's just a bit varied. And also, I guess, like with guests, you get like your hot wings kind of thing, having them more included in doing an activity when they come over, and that could be like dry brushing or painting or trying different biscuits. Soulbound, thank you, Barry. Or just, you know, just trying some. I think there's gonna be a lot of trying and testing and seeing what works and what doesn't. I want to do a whole. I literally get people out of the community that just like put a pledge out to get people out of the community and go, we're going to do a series of bake-off style painting challenges, and we're going to get a bunch of people from the community. And biscuits, great idea, that's what they're eating, biscuits, different flavored biscuits from around the world. Some of them are going to be tasting of ass and some of them won't be, hopefully. But yeah, lots of plans. In my head, I foresee the painting phase been bigger, but that's like the 10-year plan at the moment. Let's just get some videos out, and hopefully we can make some money and grow and get more people in. We're looking at, and that's something that's going to happen soon, is we'll be putting an advertisement up for an editor, because we want to get an editor, have a full-time editor, so then Pat can do more stuff for himself as well as videography, because at the moment he videos it, and I've done a bit of editing but not as much as Pat has, so yeah, we need to get more people involved, and then just growing it, and just having a whale of a time. And I'm really sorry, I just waffle on, I really do.
This is what the idea is beyond the interrogation room, is for people to see the side that you can't necessarily show when you're doing the painting phase or you're doing other things, and it's more so they can see the I'm not saying you're not the true you in the painting frame, but the more true your own environment.
Good. At home with a tea.
But yeah, touching on what you said, like trying to get the younger kids involved, going back and pushing Mantic again, they've got up at the minute a pre-order for an advent calendar.
Wicked. That's
which
cool.
is called, I think it's Ballroom Brawl, and obviously you open the calendar up, and it's a bit like a dungeon crawler, and you get like your counters, dice, and some resin cast models, and then the last opening up is the rule book for having this Christmas Ballroom Brawl.
That's amazing. That's a really good
and
idea.
The lid that opens up is the board that you play on.
Yeah.
And it's time for trying to get your kids into it, and which is another reason why they've done the Dungeon Saga, which is a dungeon crawler, which is aimed at getting the younger kids into playing. It's a bit like Warhammer Quest, but a bit more relaxed and can be a bit more comical. On the Dungeon Saga side of it.
That's what you want. You want comedy. Kids love comedy and death. I've discovered that kids like death and gore.
You've got your typical characters, like you got dwarves, barbarians, elves, dark elves, and orcs and all that running around, and then you've got your skeleton warriors and everything coming out trying to kill. With the new one that was just on Kickstarter that should be coming up released at Christmas, the way they wrote the campaigns is they say that no matter how many times you play it, the outcome will be different.
That's cool. Yeah, I need to get this. This sounds great.
Still have the same like dungeon layout, but because your decisions will be different or your dice rolling is different, the outcomes are going to be different.
I like it. It's an advent calendar meets not Final Fantasy, Fantasy Flight styles, like choose your own adventure books. I don't know where Final Fantasy came from.
So that's what they've done. They've done these advent calendars to give you the taste, and then they're doing the Dungeon Saga. And because it's all based in the same universe, then you move from Dungeon Saga onto Kings of War.
That's amazing. And I guess you use the same figures as well if they've got like little resin figures in.
The same scale. And then alongside that as well, you can then go into Armada, which is all your boats. The factions.
I need to look at Mantic more. Weirdly, I look at a lot of miniature websites and stuff, and other than like the treasure crates, I've not looked at the other stuff, and that is my bad, because this sounds like there's some awesome stuff. So I need to be a bit more on the ball at looking at other toys. Not been a good boy. Hit me hard, Scott. Hit me hard.
Past the ball off the shed, so.
Oh, good. I'll bring out the GIMP mask then, shall I? Hell yeah. Sorry, everybody at home. Oh, it's moved from like 30 people now to 5. I do apologise.
But we'll. I can even try. We'll get you in touch with some of the people at Mantic as well.
Yeah, please do. Yeah, I'm always on the lookout for just seeing other stuff and trying other things, even if we don't end up making a video or whatever. The films continue. I'm always wanted to try new stuff. Like Warlord, we chatted to those recently. Oh no, Hattie's here. Oh, she's checking up on me, making sure I'm being a good boy. I'm not being a good boy, Hattie. I'm talking about gimp masks and bondage. It's what Scott likes, apparently. He likes it. It's his thing. We're both boldy, beardy men. Terrible human.
It's a good as well, because Mantic is another one that's based in Nottingham.
Yeah.
So
that's just like literally around the corner, aren't they? Yeah, not far away.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
So you've got all these big players, and they're like within 5 miles of each other.
Sorry, just seeing some horrible messages. People are making it rude. Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, by all means, put me in touch. I want to do more stuff.
Yeah. So yeah. I say, Johnny, I think he'll be delighted to pass some stuff your way and get you guys on board.
Yeah, cool.
Because so part of being a Pathfinder, this is what we're trying to do, is grow, especially the Kings of War. I say they do the sci-fi stuff as well, like the Dead Zone and Firefight. The Dead Zone's pretty cool, because that's a skirmish game that's played. It's played on a grid, and it's in like you don't have movement in inches, you move in cubes. So it'll have like a 2-3 movement, and then that's how many cubes you can move.
Yeah.
But it's vertical as well.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So it's each cube's 3 or 4 inches, and then it's 8x8 table for the cubes. So it's a pretty small one, and you're not restricted on how high you can go, and it's a alternating thing. So you'll have the skirmish one and the firefight one. You activate a model, and then your opponent does.
Yeah. So Billy's saying she can't breathe. Are you on about me or him because of the gimp mask? I don't know which is it. The ball gag and the gimp mask. Yeah, I mean, I can't breathe when that happens. I mean, it's normal, isn't it? Did you experience that, Scott, a lot with the ball gag and the gimp mask, being unable to breathe?
Yeah, it's worse in this heat.
Yeah, well, the heat, and then you start to like, but at least you lose weight with the sweat. That is a Billy bonus, I suppose. But
The sweating makes it easy to get the mask off at the end.
Yeah, I hate when people put their thumbs over the straws coming from the nose. That's the worst. So I just hate that. Sorry, I turned it back to dark. No, that sounds cool. Yeah, I've heard good stuff about Dead Zone and stuff like that. So Tyson Fury, you do look like Tyson Fury. No, how can I not see this now? Scott is Tyson Fury. Yes, I'm like, amazing. Yeah, I mean, I get told that I forget who what's the guy's name? It's like some porn actor or something like that. Something Johnny something or whatever. People are like, why is Peter like Johnny such and such? And I'm like, who? Because I don't know anything rude on the internet. I'm a good, sweet human being. I don't know anything about rudeness. Honest. I don't know what rimming is or pegging. Don't know what any of those are. Felching. I don't even know what felching is. I've heard people say that a few times. Someone told me to look at something called blue waffle, and I feel like I shouldn't. Yeah. Sorry, I took your podcast to a dark corner.
It was heading there when I invited you on.
Peachy's got a dark mind. I do. That's why
I do actually. Painting face here, and it'll be a red room.
Yes, it will. Yeah. Ooh, yeah. Well, I might even paint it red because we've been told we can paint it. Covered in blood. Yeah, cool.
So we'll just wrap it up now. Won't keep you too much longer. Well, next year's plans is more of the events and UK Games Expo and Salute and stuff like that again.
Yeah. So I said to Pat, we should. And it'd be stupid of us not to go to at least one American event. And I think the best one to go to, I've never been. I've been to, I was supposed to go to Nova at one point, so I was prepared for that, but then it never, COVID happened, so it never happened. But I was prepared. I knew what was going to go off. But I want to go to Adepticon. So the aim is to go to Adepticon next year. We've been invited to go to Las Vegas Open with Byron and do some stuff with him, which might be fun. So that gives Pat a bit of an idea of what to expect. I need to sort out a passport as well. But yeah, when it comes to the campaign season of events, we'll be heading to some of them. Hopefully try and do actually some more, maybe some of them potentially have a stand or just roam around again like we did. And then once we've got ourselves established, I'd like and this is the other thing, talking about like bigger plans as well. I'd like at some point, because I do one-to-one tuitions as part of a patron tier. That's remote, and when we move into the studio, I'll use better cameras, but I'd want to actually do some seminars at events or at the office, or hire a place, or get a bigger premises with a place where I can have like 20 people come in, spend a day, do some painting, play some games, have a bit of a laugh, drink lots of tea, lots of biscuits, maybe even like chat with, you know, Pat and Jeff as well. So they'd like to do some more of that stuff with the premises down the line as well. Hopefully next year, get more of that done. So, but yeah, definitely events. We'll be attending as many of them as we can. Definitely going to ChillCon because I love that. Definitely going to go to GriffCon because I love that. Definitely Expo. Yes, yeah. It's a derby, isn't it? Because it was Sheffield last time, wasn't it? So I think it's
they're doing two, Sheffield and Derby.
Oh, from what I was talking to Pat was talking to the guy, and he said, we're in Derby this year, and it's a Sunday. So I thought it was just the one, but that's cool. Maybe both. Ooh.
Before COVID, they did a Sheffield one and a Derby one. So I don't know if they go in Sheffield Derby, or so I got the impression that they're doing, people wanting one that's a bit more central, and I think they were doing Derby because I have messaged to see about doing a demo table for Kings of War with their ambush, which is a skirmish size. So just waiting to hear back on that. So I'll be there hopefully demoing Kings of War.
Nice
for that one.
Yeah, you've just reminded me. Actually, I want to do some demoing. I'm not like my own game, but I want to just do I'm going to be at One World and playing a Warcry campaign. Come join me, or even do make a cool board for like Salute or Expo or something like that, and you know, people can come meet the painting phase and play Peachy at Warcry. That might be next year's plan as well. So, but yeah, thank you for reminding me about the demo thing as well, because that's good fun, isn't it? Like building a board and doing some stuff and getting to interact with people.
I jumped in at the deep end because my first proper experience of demoing and interacting with the public was the UK Games Expo.
Right, wow, good start, because anything else after that is like bit more chilled. So yeah, you've hit the high point, and it's just like, that is mad, but don't worry, all the others a little bit less hectic, I hope.
Yeah, I say another thing I wanted to push out your way is we're trying a few of our friends that have been to the Clash of Kings and whatnot, we're trying to plan a tournament in March. So what I was going to ask is if one of you or all of you are available to come down and judge best painted for us.
Yeah, that'd be great.
In Burton, so
it's not, we're not far away at all.
Yeah,
I know. Depends on the day. Like weekends, for me, fine. Just have to square it with the wife. Usually, if I give her enough notice, not a problem. And March next year is plenty of notice. I think.
We're not set a date yet. We're still trying to discuss things and everything. But I'm reaching out to people for price support. Mantic will give us a load of price support. There's other people I'm reaching out as well for prizes and stuff. And one of the things I wanted to do was to try and get the draw. It's not going to be a massive tournament. It'll probably be a maximum of 20 people. But just say when you're selling the ticket, best painted will be judged by somebody that's not playing or somebody that's not organised. It's a bit more an appeal. But being local, it might be something you could touch on or do.
Yeah, and we'd even plug it like a couple of like shows before it goes live as well. Happy to do it. And I know if it's a Saturday, it's like Jeff's busiest day in the barbers. But if we give him enough notice, all three of us could just rock up and have a bit of a laugh and talk through and then just look at minis. That'd be fun. Yeah, I'm totally up for it. Because I'm old and my recall is awful, remind me with emails and stuff like that, because you know you'll be able to get I can drop you the painting phase email and stuff. It's on YouTube as well, but I could drop it. But yeah, I often say yes to these things because they sound cool, and then forget because it was like 5 months ago we talked about it, and then suddenly like, oh, that's a thing. Oh yeah. So yeah, I'm an awful human being at remembering. I've been told it's something to do with ADHD, but I think I'm just an idiot. I think that's more plausible.
So yeah, that'll wrap it up. So it's been a good chat, and pleasure talking to you.
thank you for having me. So sorry it took so long to align the stars and the moon and all the planets, because busy, both of us.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, thank you for having me on. Lovely seeing all the folks in the chat joining and stuff. To see Republique is there as well. Hello, Republique. But yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, well,
and
I say future on down the line, once you move to studio, we'll get you back on to talk about the move and a few other bits.
Fun chat, says Billy. Yeah, we got dirty near the end, me and Scott. Yeah, we're gonna go and get a room now, aren't we, Scott? Because we are actually in the same house right now. We're gonna go to a special room. We're gonna go to the sexy room. I'm so sorry. I'm not even drinking. This is me before drinking. I do apologise.
I've the painting for you to know, so.
I hate myself. I don't. No, well, thanks for having me, and I'm going to go and say goodnight to children. Children. That says there's more than one child. Say goodnight to child.
Thank you to everybody that's come in. I think this has been my biggest stream so far. So.
Cool.
Good. Thank you everyone that came in, and it will get posted up on my YouTube channel as well, and it will be on my Instagram as well. So big thank you. I'll talk to you later, and we'll sort some things out.
Mega. Speak soon, buddy.
Cheers. Thank you.
Take care. Stay frosty.
Okay.